Minister, I think everybody would accept in this House that you've had a lot on your plate. You've been trying to reopen schools, you've been trying to deal with a lot of inherited messes on your desk. Nobody is suggesting for a second that all of this is your own fault. There are things you have to address in the coming period of time. You have to address oversized, class sizes which are too big in primary and secondary schools. You have a teacher union which is battled for industrial action because of the nature of what's going on in second-level schools. You have to sort out pay inequality. You have to give proper pay and conditions to school secretaries. Your department has to begin to deal with special needs assistants in a more respectful manner. And you have to vindicate the right of children with special educational needs to even get a school place. So there's a huge amount on your agenda. But can I say to you in terms of the Leaving Cert, from the beginning, that there were people in the opposition who had strong views on this who haven't been listened to at all. Now, we said from the beginning in the Labour Party, when your own predecessor as education spokesperson, Thomas Byrne, said via tweet that the written exam should be cancelled, we didn't agree with that assessment because we were completely unconvinced that you find a proper, fair, robust manner in such a short space of time to replace the Leaving Cert. Now, from the off, we said that school profiling was a bad idea. From the off. It should have been deleted by your officials immediately, but it wasn't. Now, to your credit, you recognised it was wrong after the debacle in the UK, and you deleted it at the last second, which I believe is part of the problem. That timeline. Because I had to force out of you, in the Dáil, an admission that the Leaving Cert result date is being delayed until the 7th of September. Reason being because the calculated grade system. I am coming to the conclusion, if that school profiling had been deleted earlier in the process, that the process would have been more robust. You engage the services of this crowd, Polymetrica, without a procurement process, no tender document. This was overseen by a national standardisation group, an independent steering committee, Dr. Janet Brown appointed as the external reviewer, and you relied on the work of Polymetrica International. Apparently, one individual, who's the head of the Northern Ireland CCEA, was on the steering committee, and at the same time that he was apologising about the Northern Ireland debacle, he was signing off on the system in the Republic. Now, your department placed 61,000 dreams, 61,000 ambitions, 61,000 emotions, mental health of 61,000 young people into the hands of their teachers and then Polymetrica. And guess who we could trust? We could trust the teachers. But then this body that you employed in order to do this obviously made a mistake. Did you not road test it? Did you not road test it immediately? Did your department not say, this is the first time in the history of the state that we're not having a written exam, so we have to road test this? I mean, some of the commentary, not necessarily from yourself, Minister, but from other government spokespeople is like, oh, well, mistakes happen. These things happen. It's a bit like a builder coming to you saying, oh, well, look, we made a mistake with the foundations. But sure, 95% of the house is fine. These things happen. Mistakes happened. Sure, can we all just move on? This was one of the biggest educational decisions ever made, not to go ahead with a written Leaving Cert. You would imagine the momentous nature of that decision would have reverberated throughout the Department of Education so that no possibility for an error would have come into play. And yet 2 of them surfaced. 2 of them. And now, after all this, we've got 6,500 students now who are going to get their grades changed, improved. Now, I have a number of questions. You said, which is a remarkable statement for a Minister for Education, but it's a statement of fact. You have said that there are students who will not be able to attend the course that they have legitimately obtained through this system because of an error from the Department of Education. Now, that's a devastating thing for somebody to hear. And by the way, Minister, we told you, and other deputies told you, about this timeline. We told you that it was wrong for students to get their school-based assessments and to see the differential between that and their final grade after the CA offers came out. We told you that was a mistake because it was too late to appeal then. It was too late. So what I want to know is, what is the department planning to do for the cohort of students who may have already set up shop or maybe made a decision, a 3-4 year decision about being in Galway or being in Cork or being in Limerick or being in Dublin, and now discover, because of your department's foul-up, that their lives are completely different now? Are you going to say, well, look, these things happen, sure, it's only a year, and sure, mistakes happen, and that's the way it goes? You were told, not necessarily yourself, when I say you, your government, we're told from the off, that calculated grades is not a small decision. It's not something that somebody tweets about and then says, well, sure, somebody else can sort out the ramifications. It was a monumental decision. And then when you included school profiling and then took it out, that was a decision that was taken so late that the system couldn't then correct itself within time for the results to come out. And then you had a situation where the CEO results came out and then students didn't even know the discrepancies between the school-based assessment and what the polymetric bunch had churned out. And now we also understand that you don't, or your department doesn't trust anybody. You don't trust your cabinet colleagues. You don't trust anybody in the education sphere, because nobody knew this was coming. Nobody from third-level institutions, nobody from students' union bodies, no teacher union knew this was coming. So obviously, the Department of Education currently doesn't trust anybody. Certainly can't tell us, but you can't tell anybody about what was coming. So look, let's forget about the political, system here for a second. Let's focus again on the young people, and let's focus on those who are going to be most hurt by this. So in the minute or so left that you have, Minister, to respond to me, I just want you to respond to this one central issue, because, Minister, I believe you are a compassionate, capable politician who's going to deliver a lot of good change in the education system over the coming period of time. I believe that. And I believe that many of the things you've done in your short period of time have benefited children and young people across the land in terms of getting into school buildings. I believe that, and I want to work with you to achieve more. But I want to know tonight, what are you going to say to somebody in the coming days who discovers that they're now stuck in Galway when they wanted to be in Limerick or whatever the situation is? What practical support are you going to give them? Because telling them, from government perspective, that there was a mistake and we're sorry, really isn't going to cut it.
Deputy, I wouldn't mind being stuck in Galway myself, but anyway, Minister.
Gurmagat, and thank you, Deputy. And I do want to acknowledge, and you've referenced the whole calculated grades process, and I do want to acknowledge that many people had principled objections to it and voiced those, and indeed many teachers who put them to one side in what was an extraordinary time and the need to do and introduce an extraordinary measure because of the pandemic. And I salute the teachers who made it possible and put aside their objections and did it in the best interest of their students. And I utterly accept what you're saying in that regard. Just in terms of the specific, and I'm conscious that I'm losing time here, but just in specifically regarding the question that you raised for the students who might well have taken up one particular offer and may now, as a consequence, be in a position to receive a higher preference offer. I just want to point out, I suppose, really to give it some context, we'll say last year in terms of appeals, we had 17,000 students who made an appeal, 3,000 of whom were upgraded and 600 offers being made. And as a consequence of that, all but 3 of those received offers within that time frame, or within the academic year of last year. We're going to move might and main, and I know that the Minister for Higher Education has said likewise, to ensure that students will be in a position to receive those offers this year and that they will be in this academic year to the absolute best of our ability. I appreciate some students already have taken up the offer, as may have occurred in previous years as well. But it is important to note as well that as a special arrangement this year, any student who gets a higher offer either as a result of taking the exams in November or as a result of an upgrade, that student won't have any fees to pay, either registration or otherwise, and will of course be eligible for SUSI again. It is not an ideal situation. I absolutely know that, Deputy. I would never have wanted students to be in this position. All of us, and we have an agreed agenda here, want only what is best for the students. They are at the centre of all that we do in the Department of Education. I have worked all my life in the education sector, and I absolutely want to ensure, and indeed working with people like yourselves and the members of Dáil Éireann, to ensure that we deliver for the students. This is not an ideal situation.
Thank you, Minister. We're over time. I'm sorry, Deputy Gary Gannon.